It is what it is. Oh, right? Hello, go away. All right, you have a copy, right? You got a copy. Your dog ate it? Well, you give it a copy. Your dog ate it, I guess. No, you might not have been. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you didn't. Maybe that was the last line. I'm not sure. Anyway. Okay, now I said we're getting into a very, very difficult part of the mind. And there's going to be things we don't understand. So that's okay. We're going to read through them and not really explain them. And you'll see why. I mean, you'll go, okay, yeah, I see why you're saying that. Okay, but now the Rebbe on page 422 is that's where we got. Near the bottom, right? Near the bottom of page 422. Rebbe is explaining the inyan of why it is that the birur that we've been talking about, right? We said that there are 4 different levels of reality. Those 4 levels of reality express themselves in physical creation. They express themselves in the reality of a person. They express themselves in our avodah, and they express themselves in Torah. And we went through all 4 levels of that relative to Demim Tzmei Chaim Medaber. Now, relative to Torah, the Rebbe, as we've said this ad nauseum, as they say, that the Rebbe does not go through all 4 levels relative to Torah, and just explains how the highest level is ultimately expressed in the lowest level, the highest level being Medaber, and that level of Medaber is expressed dafke in the dibur of the oisius of the Torah, and that's why that no matter what aspect of Torah you're learning, even if it's Torah Shebechsav, where you don't have to understand what you're learning, or Torah Shebal Peh, which you do have to understand what you're learning, and certainly the ikar of Torah Shebal Peh you would think is Havana Vasaga, is comprehension. That's not true. We know that you're not Yotze the mitzvah unless you say it with your mouth, unless you say the words. In other words, saying the words is the ikar mitzvah, right? And we don't, right? And that, because that brings about a birur of a rectification of the lowest level of reality. But why dafka Torah? That's what we started on Sunday. Why dafka Torah? Because we know there are different levels of birurim, there are different levels of avodah. Tefillah is the birur, the rectification of reality from below above. And that's generally called a birur b'ofen shel milchama. It's a battle, because you have to encounter and directly encounter the Nefesh Bahamis and get the Nefesh Bahamis to express its love for Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's a battle, and that's why Tefillah is so difficult. Torah is called Pediya B'Sholem, Pada B'Sholem Nafshi. That's Dafka Torah. Why? Because when you're learning Torah, now that's what the Rebbe is ultimately explaining here, but when you're learning Torah simply, and it's explained in all the Pada B'Sholem Memarim, and we learned one this year, Kislev time, Pada B'Sholem means that the rectification of reality is happening mamela. All I'm doing is sitting and learning about reality in Torah, and by virtue of the fact that I'm learning about that reality as it exists in the Torah, I'm bringing about an elevation of that reality, even though it's not in my living room. The ox and cow are not fighting it out in my living room and being, goring and being gored and giving birth at the same time. Right? That's not happening in my living room. That's happening in some conceptual field somewhere. But when I'm sitting in my living room and dealing with those sugyas in Baba Kama, so I'm elevating that state of reality, because I'm now taking that state of reality and it's part of Torah. Now the Torah put it in the Torah, but you and I learning that Torah and saying the words of that Mishnah and learning that sugya, so that's elevating that state of reality, and that's called Pada B'Sholem. Right. Then we saw the 2 different positions as the Beis Shammai is the last thing we saw basically. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai, right? Ketzad Meratim Lifnei Akala. Beis Shammai says, Kala Kameshi. You call a spade a spade. If the Kala is not so pretty, so you don't call her beautiful. You say, okay, she's like a 4, right? Okay, why? Because Beis Shammai is all about avodah from below, and avodah from below you have to be emistic regarding the pagam, the blemish that exists, and work on fixing the blemish from below. Right? That's one level of avodah, and there's a certain aspect of avodah where that's absolutely necessary. And then there's Beis Hillel, and Beis Hillel says, Kala noah v'chasuda. She's beautiful and she's righteous. Right? Why? Because Beis Hillel is all about the revelation of, Beis Hillel is chesed, the revelation of the the light from above, which shines so powerfully that it illuminates everything with its light and elevates everything to a state of beauty. So Beis Shammai says that the way to deal with issues in Avodah is to find the issue and try to correct the issue from below. And Beis Hillel says no. The way to deal with the issue is to illuminate the issue with the light of Torah from above, and Mamela, that issue will disappear. Now, obviously, it depends on the issue, right? But we talked about it at length on Sunday. That clearly the derech in Avodas Hashem of the Rebbe is not to spend all day trying to figure out what's wrong with me and fix it. The derech of the Rebbe is to spend our day doing good things. We're so busy doing good things, we don't have time to worry about other shtus. And then Mamela, our day is a day full of godliness, because we're just busy. And not busy in an external way. We're busy, we're doing it, and that becomes who we are. That's what a person's about. They're about that activity, as opposed to, and that, to a great degree, that'll mean the person is not interested in fixing themselves. Not because they don't think they should be fixed, but that's not what they're obsessed with. They're not obsessed with themselves. They're obsessed with God's will and what does God want for me and how can I express that best. As opposed to where am I and where am I holding and what do I know and what don't I know and what am I good at and what am I not good at. And my whole day is spent worrying about my own spiritual reality. So the last thing in my mind is God. Okay. It's just not the derech of Chassidus in general, but the Rebbe in particular. Right? The Rebbe's derech in Avodah, he talks about it all the time. We're seeing it here. Beis Hillel. Kala no v'chasuda. You want to be involved in, you want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu more? Connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, do good things. Connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like that girl, right? We talked about that girl, that English girl, who said she's not nice. And what did Rabbi tell her to do? Do nice things. Set the table for people in your set. Bring them food. Do nice things. Then that's what nice people do. Nice people do nice things. So do nice things, you'll be nice. Just think, nice things you can do. And do them. As opposed to sit and fester in my own imperfection. It's very easy to do. And then I feel like I'm doing something, and so I'm not responsible for my imperfection anymore because at least I care. Okay.
Okay. It's easier to stew than to do.
If it is to be, it is up to me. 10 two-letter words. Okay? So, yeah. Okay, so that's Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. And the last thing we saw was the shalom of Famalia Shel Maila and the Famalia Shel Mata. The peace between the upper realms and the lower realms. The entourage from above, Famalia, family, and the entourage from below. So we haven't, I don't know, maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but we're going to go through that more slowly, because if we did see it, we saw it at the very, very end of Shir. Okay, so we are, footnote 34, 8 lines up from the bottom of the page. On page 422. Well, Zema Shikosav Az Yachsik B'Ma'oizi Yaseh Sholem Li Sholem Yaseh Li. Right, that's the pasuk. Right, and the Chazal say relative to that pasuk, because it says twice the word shalom. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says the ones who hold on to my strength, they'll do shalom for me. Shalom they'll do for me. So what's this double shalom? So what does Chazal say? Kol ha'isuk b'Torah l'shma. Anybody who learns Torah for its sake, meaning for the Torah's sake, for God's sake. Meisim shalom b'famalia shel mailo u'b'famalia shel mata. Brings about peace in the upper, in the entourage of above and the entourage of below. Okay, so what does that mean? What's the above? What's the below? So there's going to be different expressions of that. The Meisim shalom b'famalia shel mailo. What is that? Hu hamshocha b'atzilus. That's bringing about shalom in the above, and in this context, the above is atzilus. And how do you bring about shalom? And the Rebbe is going to say it explicitly, but how do you bring about shalom? You connect something to its source in a higher place. Shalom is connection. It's a simple shot, right? People get along, they're connected. Okay. Sholem is connection. What does sholem in this context mean? That I connect something to its source in a higher level of elokus, therefore it's able to reach its true potential. Because of course, we've learned this in a number of different instances. We also learned it in Shaykh T'Sfir Sa'imer, in Machras or Shabbos, that if I try to fix something within the context of its reality and only its reality, well, I can't truly fix it. There can be a cosmetic change, but not a real change. Why? Well, because I'm dealing within the limitations of that thing, so it's still completely limited by its existential state. Okay, so how do I truly change something? By connecting it to a level that's transcendent of it, where the limitation that affects the thing below doesn't affect the reality above. And when that reality above shines into the thing below, it elevates it to a state beyond its limitations. That's Mimachras Shabbos. How do you rectify your midos? Not by disciplining your midos. You have to discipline your midos. You have to discipline your behavior. Without discipline, nothing works. But that's not ultimate tikkun. That's just cosmetic. How do you bring about real change? Connecting to that level the Rebbe described as Mimachras Shabbos, the level beyond Shabbos, the level beyond the natural order. Shabbos is the highest place in the natural order, in time. And there's a level beyond the natural order. What's that? Well, where's that in you and I? How do we touch that place? You have a nefesh elokis. You have a godly soul. That's what represents that what he wants. You have a godly soul. You want to fix your animal soul? Connect it to your godly soul. Don't simply, you have to discipline. There's no question. You have to have discipline. You have to be able to say no. You have to use kaf. You have, okay, we say it, but that's not going to bring about a real change. It's necessary. It's not going to bring about real change. I'm still going to want the same thing. I just keep saying no to myself. Okay, how am I going to get to the point where I'm not interested in it? By illuminating the nefesh b'amis with a level beyond it called the nefesh elokis. So now the nefesh b'amis identifies with elokus, as opposed to just does elokus. If I identify with it, then who I am. That's actually the week we just finished. Yesod is identification. Yesod is connection, is identifying yourself by that thing. So in the nefesh b'amis, it means the person will identify themselves in terms of a particular taiva, or an aveira, so they'll make a parade, right? That's identification, right? They'll identify themselves that way, right? And in Nefesh Elokis, it'll be a person identifying themselves in terms of their relationship with the Nefesh Baruch Hu. That's how they relate to themselves, that's who they are. It's not that I'm a Nefesh B'Amis and I try my best to have some Yiddishkeit in my life. It's not who you are. Well, are you really? You're really a Nefesh Elokis. It's true there's a Nefesh B'Amis, but say there. How often does the Rebbe talk about the Nefesh B'Amis in the Rebbe's Chassidus? Very rarely. How often does the Rebbe talk about the Nefesh Elokis? Every line. That's all he talks about. Why? Because he wants to somehow inculcate our brains with the idea that we're more Nefesh Elokis than Nefesh B'Amis. Essential me is Nefesh Elokis. Conscious me is Nefesh B'Amis. But say there, who are you really? And if you think about it logically, who are you really? Well, okay, who were you for who knows how long that your neshama was in existence before it came down into your goof? You were a neshama. Okay, for the last X amount of years, and there's 4 different numbers in this room, so you've also been a nefesh b'amis and a goof. Okay, now we're not planning on dying and leaving, okay, but the way the world generally, Mashiach is going to come, we'll have Chaim Nitzchim, okay, but the way the world generally works is someone spends their time down here and then they go back up to Gan Eden, okay. So we'll talk about some guy who passed away 100 years ago. So his neshama was around for who knows how long before that. 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, I have no clue. It's around for a long time, his neshama. Right? Then his neshama came into his goof in, we'll do Goyish years, 1783. His neshama came into his goof. So his neshama was in his goof for the next 81 years. So in 1864, his neshama left his goof. And it went to Gan Eden. So for 2,000 years before 1763, or whatever it was, 83 or 63? 83, thank you. For 2,000 years before 1783, what was he? He was a neshama. He was Nefesh Elokis. He was no goof, no Nefesh B'Amis. He came down into this world, and for some temporary period of time, he had a goof and had a Nefesh B'Amis. And then he left, and for the last 100 years, he's been a neshama in Gan Eden. So who is he? You're going to define him by that tiny little space of time where he was, where the neshama was clothed in the nefesh elokis, in the nefesh habahamis in the guf, or you're going to define him by what he's been the whole time. What has he been the whole time? The nefesh elokis. There was a period of time when that nefesh elokis also came down into Elam Hazeh and ate hamburgers. Right? Very limited period of time. Okay. Now, obviously, that limited period of time is pretty important to you and I because we're in the middle of it. So that's in the count yourself. Good. But who are you? Who are you really? Your name, when you're called up to the Torah, who does that name refer to? It refers to a nefesh elokis, because that name's not changing. When a person leaves Olam Hazeh, they have that name. And if someone wants to daven for Ilui Nishmas, the same name, same guy. How long have they been davening for Ilui Nishmas? 150 years. They've been davening the Ilui Nishmas so-and-so on his yard site. Whatever. So who is he really? Is he really a nefesh habahamis in a goof? Permit. Okay. It just happens to be that the nefesh habahamis in the goof making a tremendous amount of noise down here in Olam Hazeh. But what are we hoping to identify with? Nefesh elokis. Oh. And then I bring about a real change in my nefesh habahamis. If I can identify with my nefesh elokis, then my nefesh habahamis changes truly because it just becomes a kli for the nefesh elokis to express itself, as opposed to the be-all and end-all of my life. Yeah, there's a nefesh habahamis. Okay, say no, and that's why the Ikar Bira is Torah. This was Torah law for the revelation of the nefesh elokis. Instead of festering in the nefesh habahamis all day, just go do stuff that nefesh elokis wants to do, which is what God wants to do. Okay, so go do that stuff. No, but I have to deal with my nefesh habahamis. I love myself so much. The person just gets wound up. Obviously, like everything, it's easier said than done. But okay, say it. The truth's the truth. And I just have to live it. Okay, so they saw Beshamer Shalom from Ma'ashem Shalom Shalom. What's that? So Rabbi explains. The Mesim Shalom from Ma'ashem Maila. It's drawing down light into Atzilus. In other words, there's levels beyond Atzilus, which are higher, more powerful levels of godly light. Anything, so to speak, beyond Atzilus, by definition, is called Or Sevev, because Atzilus is the beginning of that level of light called Or Mamale, where light clothes itself in Kelim, and therefore there's a level of Tzimtzum in Elam Atzilus, such that the light can express itself within the context of these 10 things called 10 spheres. What's the home address of the 10 spheres? Atzilus. Where do they come into a state of revelation, Atzilus? In the spheres? Elam Atzilus.
Know the Bria?
No.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
Elam Bria is the beginning of created reality. Elam Atzilus is the level of godly reality that will become the source of created reality. But so to speak, the process that Elokus goes through and before it becomes a creator is that it somehow brings about a true expression of the notion of multiplicity. Now, that's ultimately what do we know about Atzilus? I was going to quote it over and over. Iyu v'chayu ichad, Iyu v'garmu ichad, the light and the kelim and Atzilus is all one. It's a world of absolute oneness. Okay, we say that, but there's also a revelation of 10 different spheres in there. Those spheres are one. Chas v'sholom, I think there's 10 different gods. It's one God. Okay, but in Atzilus, that one God can be expressed within the context of 10 different levels of reality. It's all the same God. The mashal, of course, is the light of the sun shining through a latticed window. So on the floor there might be 10 boxes of light, but it's all the same light. It's not that this is the sun and this is the moon and this is something else. No, it's all the light of the sun. It just happens to be expressed in different ways. I mean, the light of the sun isn't one. No, the light of the sun is one. It just happens to be expressed in a revealed way here in the context of 10 boxes of light on the floor. Why? Well, because the latticed window did that. So the kli allows it to express itself that way, but that's not the essence of the light, and is that it's all one. And as a matter of fact, the essence of the kli, it's all one. The window is also one window. It just happens to allow the light to express itself in that way. And that's Elam Atzilus. So Elam Atzilus is the place where there's a revelation of the notion of hischalkus, of separation, even though it's not true separation, but it's in Elokus. Elam Atzilus isn't a created world, it's the Eibishter. Bereshis bar Elokim is Malchus of Atzilus giving birth to Elam Abriya, the world of creation. What's there? Created reality. Metaphysical created reality. Angels, souls, all sorts of amazing stuff up there. Okay. Still created. It's not the Eibishter. Okay. So now the Rebbe's going to explain to us soon, well, now basically. So why does Atzilus require any elevation such that it requires a hamshacha from above, drawing light into it from above? Isn't Atzilus itself a state of wholeness? So we'll see. Let's see. Now, so that whole question is obviously a question for someone for whom Atzilus is very much part of their intellectual reality, and it's not this Atzilus Bria, they feel at home in those ideas, they understand what those worlds are all about. Okay, now we spent a great deal of time in this class learning about those four worlds in Basi Lagani. Right? Because in the first place of Basi Lagani and the Frida Rebbe explains very, very clearly the difference between Atzilus on one hand, Bria, Tzir, on the other. In the context of wanting to explain or Sevev, a level of light beyond all of that differentiation. In order to understand Sevev, I have to understand Mamale, the light that fills, the light that allows itself to be expressed in differentiation. Still godly light, it's still all one. Don't be taken by that differentiation. It's not real. So there's the Mesim Sholem Sholmaila. What's that? That's bringing about a state of Sholem and Atzilus. Now, so we have to understand, why does Atzilus need? Isn't that what Atzilus is? So the Rebbe will explain why it isn't. Umesim Sholem the Famali Sholmata. Oh, so now we understand. Created reality, certainly created reality is all about the apparent existence of something other than the Eibishter. And I might take the creation seriously. I think the creation has some sort of independent being. So now, that's harder to do in certain states. If you were to be hanging out in Elam Abriya, you would in no way, shape, or form think that there's any separateness to the state of yesh, the state of created reality that you're experiencing. Could I please have that bottle? Of course. This bottle is a mashal for Elam Abriya. In Elam Atzilus, the kli and the or are both elokus. What's the mashal for that?
Ice. Ice water.
An ice cup. What's the cup? H2O. What's in the cup? H2O. It's all the same. There's H2O in a solid form. That's called ice. It's mugbal. In Ottawa, they can make a menorah out of ice and it lasts all of Hanukkah. And it never gets above freezing. The whole winter it doesn't get above freezing in Ottawa. Right, okay.
That's great.
They skate to work on the Rideau Canal. People skate downtown because it never ever gets above. It's the second coldest capital city in the world. There's some capital city in Siberia or something that has a lower temperature. Ottawa. Yeah, it's a nice summer, but it's just freezing in the winter. I've never been there in the summer or the winter, but it's just freezing. Okay, the same. Montreal is also pretty much that cold. It just doesn't have to be the capital city. Okay, so ice is H2O. It's just H2O in gvul, in limitation. Whereas water, well, you can't sculpt water. Okay, well, you can down here in these worlds. Okay, so what's this? This is a moshel for Elam Abriya. This is not what's inside it. This is separate. It's a kli that contains it. So this is, so to speak, the created reality that contains the godly light that gives the created reality its existence and vitality.
This is the word of Bria.
Okay. Zolam Abriya. But what does this world show you absolutely clearly? What's in it? It doesn't hide it in the least. Right? And so therefore there is a yesh, but it's batel. No pun intended. Right? It's batel. Why? Because it shows what reality truly is, as opposed to what I might think it is. What's here? Soda. No, there's a bottle. I say that, but the bottle is just there, so the soda will be here. Not interested in the bottle. Interested in soda. Just hard to have soda without a bottle. Or a cup or whatever. Okay. Could I please have that? Ooh. So perfect here.
Wow.
This is Eilam HaYetzirah. Eilam HaYetzirah, there's a little more Yeshus to the Kli, but it doesn't hide what's in it. So if you're an Eilam HaYetzirah, you are not thinking that what you're looking at is an independent being. You're looking at something which is obviously existent by virtue of the godliness in it that's vitalizing it and maintaining its existence. Okay. But the Kli has a little bit of it, more of its own Yeshus. So you might say, oh, what a beautiful blue bottle. Okay. And then there's Eilam Hazeh Gashmi. Anything in here? You don't know? You really don't know. Did I drink all my coffee or not? Okay, I'm going to give you this cup and pour it over your head. Take a chance. Don't, because there's still some coffee in there. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is Eilam Hazeh Gashmi. There's a Kli. Now the whole purpose of the Kli is what's in the Kli. I don't need the cup. Even though, interestingly enough, only in Eilam Hazeh would anybody do this. People go to shops where they buy really nice cups. What do you need a nice cup for? The ikr is the coffee in the cup, not the cup that the coffee's in. Okay, but the people like their nice cups. As a matter of fact, your grandmother might even have a whole bureau that just has a bunch of teacups and saucers. The teacups and the saucers behind them, and they've never been used. They're 150 years old. She got it from her grandmother, who got it from her grandmother. It was brought from some deep place in Russia, who knows when. And okay, that's Eilam Hazeh, where people can get really carried away with the kelim and forget about the or. Okay. Now, what is it? I remember once learning this, and someone said in Mayanot, right, even though there's a lot of coffee cups now where you can't say this anymore, but Baruch Hashem, this one's not one of them. He said, yeah, but Rabbi, if you elevate yourself, you can see what's in the cup. That's Eilam Hazeh. If you elevate yourself, you can see the elokus and everything. But if you look at the world that way, you think there's just a cup here. There's nothing here but a cup. And this cup has some independent existence all by itself. And where did it come from? I don't know. It's a philosophical issue where it came from. I do believe it came from a source. I don't believe it came from a source. That's already a debate in the Harvard Debate Society. But there's no one there because they're out rioting.
Correct.
For pro-Palestinian causes. They don't have time to debate the existence of being anymore. They're just into pro-people who like to kill beings. So they've descended into chaos. Okay. Jonah Carroll, who used to learn here, amazing guy. So he's at BU Law School. So I asked him, how's it going at BU Law School? Is there a lot of craziness? He said, no. Actually, BU is pretty calm. But he said, but right next door, Harvard, they're planning some big intifada over there. We're not sure what it is. There is one scary part of all that.
Over there, this.
If you look at the resumes of all of the people who work in the American government, they all went to Harvard, which is really scary. Because that's where all these lunatics are going to go. They're going to go work in the government and destroy the world.
Yeah.
It's pretty frightening, but it's all right. If I didn't believe in Mashiach, I'd be worried. But there's a God, and there's going to be a Mashiach, and we don't have to worry. So, those are the four worlds. So now Atzilus is that ice cup. Okay, so what do you want? You want to be mamshich from Atzilus, because Atzilus is a place of revealed godliness. There is no state of anything else. So all you see if H2O is our muscle for the Eibishter, right? All you see is H2O in a revealed way. It's all H2O. Even the gvul that you see, even the limited reality you see is still H2O. Okay. In Bria, you actually see something that isn't H2O. So therefore you see something that isn't the Eibishter Mamish. What's that? The Gli, the angel. But what is the angel busy telling you, showing you by his very existence, and telling you if you happen to have a conversation with him? If you ask the angel for his name, the part of his name will be God. It's God in every name of every angel. Right? Why? Because that's who he is. He's this aspect of Kel, and he's this aspect of Kel, and this is Raphael and Michael and Gabriel. Okay. And if you were to ask him, how are you doing, tell me something about yourself, he's not interested in talking about himself, he'll tell you about God. He's not interested in talking about himself. Why? Because he's Batul. But he's existentially. Okay, there's angels on a slightly lower level, but you might get them to talk a little bit about themselves, but not much. But they don't hide God. But what does God actually look like? I'm not sure. Is God blue? He might be. I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure. What's the color? I mean, you know. Of course I know you know. What's the color of water? I'm not sure. So then, what's the color of the liquid in this bottle? I'm not sure. Right? If you've never seen Sprite before, you might think it's going to come out looking like ginger ale. You've never seen it before. Why? Well, because the bottle is hiding something about the nature. It's not hiding the essential existence of what's in it, but it is not giving you as clear a picture of the nature of what's in it. So I could put Sprite in a ginger ale bottle and fool you. And you pour out Sprite and go, oh, I want a ginger ale. But you didn't know. How could you know? This, you know exactly what's in there. And if it happens to be a Coke bottle, you know exactly what's in there. There's Coca-Cola in there. You see it.
Isn't there still though? I mean, it's a muscle, so I don't want to take too much. But isn't there still the issue of, you know, like you fill this bottle, maybe it's hot, maybe it's cold. There's
Yeah,
still
okay, so but that's not our issue. That's fine. We're talking about the essential existence of what's in there.
got it. Okay.
Right? So is there something in this bottle? Yes. What is it? Very clear that it's water. So do I care whether it happens to still have gas or not? No, nothing there. So what does that mean? So it's flat soda, or it's emptied of soda and someone put water in it? I don't care. I mean, I care if I'm interested in drinking it, but in terms of the, you know, what this is revealing, it's irrelevant. This is revealing very, very, very clearly the existence of what's in it, and it's giving me a pretty good idea as to what that is. It's mine. And mine is very unique. Because mine is all about the notion of pshitus, of simplicity. Okay, so we'll see. That's why if you were to put a little bit of color in the water would take upon itself the color of that which you put in the water. Because mine represents absolute simplicity and unity, wholeness. It's going to come up later. Kamayim, panim al panim, kachalei vada. But if you were to if you put green drops in mayim, so then green will be revealed in the mayim. If you put green drops in Coca-Cola, it doesn't reveal green. It reveals some, because the Coca-Cola has its own yeshus inside its color. So when you put one state of yeshus in another state of yeshus, so to put it in slightly different terms, Coca-Cola is a bad example because they don't have very good color. You take one color and put it in another color, you get a third color. Take red and put it in blue, you don't get red or blue, you get a third thing called purple. Whereas if you take red or blue and put them in water, what do you get? Red or blue. Because that's the nature of water. That's why water is a mushal for levels of godliness beyond the tzilas. absolute unity, simplicity, no yeshus, no sense of self, so whatever texture, whatever reality that water is reflecting, it will reflect it fully. So when you look at your face in water, you see your face. If you look at your face in someone else's face, now you get like a mush of two faces. You don't get a clear expression of your face. Why? Because it's two states of yesh. So now it just creates this bilbul of something that, isn't clear. Okay, so but again, the marshal isn't face to face. The marshal is color. Take one color and put it in another color. You don't get either color. You don't all of a sudden get blue being revealed in red. You get a whole new color. It's called purple. Why? Well, because blue is the state of yesh, and red is the state of yesh. So when they're mixed together, they give a third state of yesh called purple. But water is ayin. So if you drop blue in water, you don't get purple. You get blue, because the ayin of the water doesn't color the blue. So the yesh of the blue is allowed to express itself. It's the nature of water. That's why water is used as a mashal for levels of godliness beyond its healers. Pshitut, simplicity, non-complex, bittul. Oh. So that's why, actually, since Atzilus, as much as it's a state of unity, but it's also still a world, and so there's still a state of differentiation there. That's why it has, in order for it to be rectified completely, it has to connect to a level beyond it. That's why Kamayim Panim Al Panim, Kach Lev Adam El Adam. So one of the pshatim we'll see is Adam is Atzilus to that which is above it. So you said Atzilus is a kli for a complete expression of godliness. Okay. Well, I'm shocked about Atzilus. Umesim Shalom Mefamel Shal Mata. What's that? Well, I'm shocked about Bia. What's being drawn down into Bia? Atzilus. So therefore, Bia becomes an expression of what Atzilus is. Unity of God, Shem Echad. That you can see the Hashem Echad in the context of created reality. Atzilus, relative to what is above it, is actually referred to as Yesh. Why? Well, because there's differentiation there. Okay, but Atzilus, relative to what's below it, is called Ayin. There's no Yesh. There's no separate reality. Okay, so both of those are true, because Atzilus is, so to speak, the hinge between godliness and worlds. So what's the hinge? Is it part of the door or part of the wall? Both. On one end, it's part of the door, so therefore Atzilus is one of the worlds. On the other hand, it's part of the house. Atzilus is Elokus. So in order to express the elokus of it has to connect to what's above it. In order to fulfill its purpose, the purpose of such a state of reality called Atzilus, it must be drawn down below and imbue that level below with the oneness that Atzilus is all about. So the oneness of God will be revealed down here in Bria Yitzira Asiyah. That's Famalia Shel Mata. How do you do that? Both of those functions are brought about by Torah. So the Rebbe is going to explain. Torah brings about from Shalom and Famalia Shel Maila, connects Atzilus to its source above, and Famalia Shel Mata connects Atzilus to Bria, Yitzira, and Asiyah. It says, now part of what we're about to read is very terse and very hard to understand, and we're going to just go through it very, very quickly and not explain everything. Right? Because it just depends on understanding all sorts of other stuff that we've never learned. Okay, famous pasuk. We will make man in in our image and in our likeness, or whatever, however that's translated. The Tsalmenu, which is obviously the higher level. Tsalmenu hu Atzilus. I mean, what's Atzilus? It's mamish like God. Demut is something domet to. It isn't the thing. It's domet to the thing. Oh, so that's Bia. Bia is domet to Elokus. It isn't Elokus. Meaning, really, you should be able to bring about the revelation of Hashem Echad also down here. But that's because it's domet to that. Right? But there is a reality, on some level, there is a reality to creation. Whereas Atzilus is mamish selim. It's the Eibush. Ubabiyah. The Shneim Tzarich Lasei Shalom, and in both of them it's necessary to make a state of Shalom. And now the Rebbe is going to explain why. We've already sort of talked about it outside. But why even Atzilus requires a connection to a level beyond it in order to be in a state of absolute wholeness. Dini Atzilus. Af she'iyu v'chayu ichad. And even though it and its vitality, its light, is one. Iyu v'garmui had. It and its causes, meaning its kelim, are one. 20th chapter of Igeres HaKodesh in Tanya, Igeres HaKodesh. So the 20th chapter explains this at great length. And it's very, very difficult, and it's probably, part of the daily Tanya that you read and go, I don't understand what I'm reading. This is like really hard. It is, it's very hard. That's very hard to say there. Okay, that's okay. Rabbi Kaplan just told me a story the other day, Sunday. That, I don't know where I heard the story, but someone was chazering a mimer, and Rabbi Yol was there, and the person was chazering the mimer, Baal Peh, going through what the Rebbe said, and he said as follows. Then the Rebbe says something for the next half page that I don't understand, and then he continued on. Rabbi Yol had a smile ear to ear. He said, oh, that's a good chazar of a mimer. There was something he didn't understand, and he didn't try to drag up and make up something. He said, I don't understand. They don't understand it, and so I'm not going to explain it. It's just like it's a piece there. They don't understand. Okay, there's things we don't understand, and so we haven't gotten there yet. So does that mean I can't learn anything because there's something I don't understand? No. Okay, even like a mimer like this, right? So the first four parts of the mimer are very, very available to anybody, right? Who understands basics in Torah, Daimon, Sameach, Vayidaber, in reality, in people, in Vayidaber, in Torah. Then I said to you guys at the beginning when we started learning Mimers, at the end of the Mimer it gets very, very difficult. There's a piece that's very, very difficult. That's where we are now. We're starting to get into the extremely difficult part. Okay? So we'll understand it a little less. And then we'll get back to where we understand what the Rebbe wants to say. But now the Rebbe is going to get very technical. Mikol Mokem. So Atzilus, even though Atzilus is a state of absolute Achdus, so the and the Kli is all Elokus. Right? In the other worlds, the Kli is not Elokus, the Kli is created reality. The angel is not God. The angel reveals God. Someone who sees an angel has a vision of Elokus because he sees, so to speak, through the angel and sees the godliness powering the angel. So he usually falls flat on his face when he sees an angel. The angel's not the Eibishter. The angel's a created thing. It just happens to be an obviously godly created thing. So that's pretty impressive. Okay. Whereas Atzilus is the Eibishter. Mikol Mokem, Hari Zeb Baal Yedei Tzimtzumim. Atzilus also comes as a result of tremendous constriction of the light. Why? Well, because the light has to be clothed in these kelim called Chochmah, Bina, Chesed, Gvura, spheres. Shaloi lefi erkam klal. It's not lefi erech, the at all. Meaning the is by definition infinite and beyond limitation, and yet it's somehow forced into this state of specific expression called spheres. Ad asher Atzilus v'Asiya shavim, until ultimately on some level, Atzilus, with its 10 spheres, and Elam Asiya, with its coffee cups and tempo bottles, is all the same. Because neither of them express the beyond infinite nature of God. Atzilus also doesn't. People got very upset about 10 spheres, right? What, there's 10 gods? No, 10 gods. God's so one that he can express himself as 10 and still be one. Okay, true. But that expression of 10 is definitely different than an expression of 1. Last week, Pirkei Avos, right? Sodom Ma'amaris Nivra Olam. Right? First Mishnah. With 10 Ma'amaris, the world was created. Talmud Leimer. Umat Talmud Leimer was it come to teach? Lo yochol b'baris b'maimer echad. Couldn't you create the world and couldn't it be created with one maimer? Yeah. Okay, but then what would the world be a revelation of? God's unity. Absolutely. And you couldn't possibly come to any mistake regarding the fact that God is one and is the source of everything. That's not the world God wants. The world God wants is a world where there's 10 mamaris. So you might think there's 10. You might get confused. And what do you have? And what's your job is to see the one in it all. It's all him. Everything's him. The fact that I have to spend the day dealing with a fender that was completely ripped off the car, that's also God. Why he doesn't want me to have a couple of hours sleep in the afternoon, I don't know. Would I rather sleep in the afternoon? Yes. I would rather sleep in a bed this afternoon. That was my plan. My plan was to teach a Chassidus shir, try to make it through Shachris somehow, make it through a Gemara class for an hour with a bunch of 18-year-olds who look at me like, what do you want from us? Right? And then go home and go to sleep for about 5 hours in a horizontal position, which I haven't done for
Only 24 hours.
Since Advanced Chassidus.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Advanced Chassidus, the last time I was horizontal. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to being horizontal. God decided, no, you're going to go deal with really important things. Car bumpers. Wow. Thanks, God.
I'm excited.
Guess what? Car bumpers are also God. There's no less God in car bumpers than anything else. I'd rather not deal with the God in car bumpers. I'd rather deal with the God in other stuff. But that's the way it goes. In all fairness, I'm just picking on myself for fun. I'm the one that made the decision that I did not want to relate to God in the Torah after about 12 o'clock. That I'd be done with God in the Torah by 12 o'clock. And that my relationship with him would be to go fast to sleep. So he said, you don't want to find, you don't want to be in the Torah? Okay, so let's do car bumpers together. Okay. I lose. I lose. That's the way it goes. I win, I don't know, whatever. He wins. He always wins, that's for sure. He just wants to hang out with me in a musach and talk about car bumpers. Yeah, he just wants to be there. He wants to go to Radio Tzliel on Rehov Yosef Weitz 1 and talk to whoever's there, who's a friend of this guy who has a car with no insurance, and talk to him about fixing the little bump that this guy made on my car. There you go. What fun. Few things in life that are more exciting and uplifting. Baruch Hashem. Okay. So since let's just finish up with the Rebbe says about since we'll get to the top of the next page and then we'll pick it up on Thursday morning, tomorrow's review. You know, tzarich liyos, there has to be, since there's this level of tzimtzum and atzilus, so on one hand the atzilus is closer to Elam Hasiya than it is to its source in higher levels of godly reality, because one thing that atzilus shares in common with this thing called Asiya is the word before both of those words, which is called Olam Atzilus, the world of Atzilus, Olam Asiya, the world of Asiya. And what's a world? What's the root of the word world? Concealment, helem. So it's a place of concealment. What's it concealing? The most powerful expression of Hashem Echad. Even though Atzilus is a world of Achdus, but it's still a world of Achdus within the context of Tzimtzumim. There's 10 separate spheres. They're not really separate. We know they're Miskala Lachad B'Sheni, like we're doing with Sphere Saimer, that they're all really one. Okay, but there is some level of Hischalkus. So on that level, the Rebbe says an amazing thing. So Atzilus and Asir are really the same in that sense, relative to what's above them. Okay. In Gashmis, what's that like? Okay, Wilt Chamberlain and a dwarf are the same size relative to the Eibishter.
Oh, of course.
Right? Okay, well, so that's Atzilus and whatever.
The Chamberlain and a speck of dust are probably the same as
Thing.
Now he's a bunch of dust.
Yes, now I see the talking dust. Right.
Nice.
I guess I should have talked about someone alive, huh? Was he ever alive? Hine, tzarich lahamshich milamayla miatzilus batzilus. So therefore you have to draw down a level that's completely beyond any limitation whatsoever, even any revelation of the notion of separation and differentiation, even though that separation and differentiation isn't real, and it's really all echad, and in Atzilus it's revealed that it's all echad, but there's a tzimtzum, there's a constriction of the light necessary to allow the light to express itself in these 10 different ways, and there's a level beyond that where the tzimtzum is not in any way, shape, or form as powerful, and therefore that level has to be drawn down into Atzilus to elevate Atzilus. Zeu shalom. That's shalom. Because what shalom? Shalom is chadrus, connection. And what's that? We'll read one more line and just go over the page and we stop. Hainu is chadrus in yonim l'maylim etzilus im etzilus. The connection of things beyond etzilus with etzilus. Okay. Now, what's that going to allow for? That's going to elevate etzilus to a place beyond itself, where Atzilus can more readily be a source, or can be that which can be drawn down into the lower levels. Because Atzilus, mitzad Atzilus, is Atzilus and nothing else.
elevated system itself so that it can be drawn down into the lower realms?
Yediuk, because if mitzad itself, what is it? Atzilus. What's Atzilus? Atzilus is Atzilus. It's not Bria, it's not Yisir, it's Yitzira, it's not Asiyah. When is it that it can be drawn down into something else and affect that positively? When it connects to a level beyond itself. When can people give to other people? When they get out of themselves. If they're stuck in themselves, they can't give to anybody else. They're too busy taking care of themselves. If they can connect to something bigger than them, they can become a giver. But if all they do is connect to themselves, then they are what they are, and they can't be anything else, so they can't affect anything else positively because they're just too stuck in their own place. And what will that do? Okay, so that, we're just going to see where we're going, but I want to get to the top of the next page psychologically. So too Bia. Now obviously Bia is a state. So Bia is a state of yesh. Bia is a state of some level of concealment. What's concealed very, very powerfully in Bia. Now it's also to a certain extent this is concealed in Atzilus, right? But infinite is concealed in Bria in a very powerful way. Okay. That doesn't mean God's concealed. But you'll see God the Creator. What about anything transcendent of that? I have a hard time with that. And most people in this world, the first level of Elokus they come to, and the first, as we talked about earlier, the first philosophical issue they will deal with, and it's not like this is unreasonable, and it's talked about in holy books. They'll talk about, is there or is there not a creator, and then they'll come to the conclusion that there is a creator, and so their relationship with the Kodesh Baruch will be God as the creator. Okay. So that's true. But that's still a very limited expression of those rules. Talked about it countless times. God the Creator is Machshava Achas. All of time, all of space is in God's life, so to speak, one thought. Anything that ever was or ever will be in time and space is all one thought in God's life. Okay? So it's true that He is the source of all that, but if I'm going to define Him solely that way, so I'll refer to Him as Bore Olam, but I'll never really get to the point where there's anything beyond that. So then that's like defining a person by virtue of one action that that person does. Oh, he's the guy who picked up the cup. So that's true. It's not very definitional. It is true. Now, obviously, if I'm the cup, so then that would be a pretty powerful statement about me. So we're the world, I get that. But that's... To describe the Eibush as only the creator of the world is just so unbelievably limited. All of time and space in God's world is that. Not time and space as it exists now. All of time and space that ever was or ever will be. Of all the worlds. Metaphysical time, physical time. The Machshava Achas Bara Alma. With one thought He created the world. It's very big. Okay. So if I appreciate that, that takes me to a whole new place. So bringing that level into Atzilus allows for that level to descend down here. What's the vehicle for that? Torah. Let's see. How do you and I know about the Machshava Achas Bara Alma? How do we know that? Huh? Without Torah, I'd never know that. Without Torah, what would I think? And this is what I think most people do think. Even though they might have Torah, they've never encountered it, that line, or never thought about that line. Right? Most people think that God, so to speak, is this being who's up there, concentrating moment by moment on keeping the world in existence. Keep existing, keep existing. Okay. So, it is true that the world is going in and out of existence every macrosecond. That He's renewing creation not every day at 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, but every macrosecond the world is going in and out of existence, and that's what allows for change. That's what allows for it to be a motion picture instead of a static picture. Okay. That doesn't take active input on his part. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's simultaneous. Because He's just so far beyond all that. But yes, there's that part of Him also. The Creator. Now that creation is very important to Him. Because that creation brings about the fulfillment of this taiva that He had way up there in His essential being. Why do you have such a taiva? Well, not such a taiva.
Thank you.
Okay.